Okay. So, very good afternoon and welcome to all the participants in this series of program on NDPS Act. In this program, again, we have with us Mr. Pradeep Mehta, retired Joint Director Prosecution, and presently a faculty member at Chandigarh Judicial Academy. So, earlier also, we had two programs just to remind ourselves that these programs were firstly an overview with special emphasis on mens rea and presumptions. And the second program we had was on pre-recovery proceedings. So we'll move forward in this program, and today we'll discuss post-recovery proceedings. So all the nuances of post-recovery proceedings, all the procedure, and the landmark judgments from Supreme Court and various other high courts we'll be discussing in this today's session. So welcoming you again and welcome you, Mr. Pradeep Mehta.
Thank you, sir.
We'll
Thank
start
you.
the deliberation and I'll request you, Mehta Saab, to please start the deliberation. Thank you.
So, good afternoon, officers. I welcome you to this third session, the series on, as has been said by Mr. Rajiv Gupta, on NDPS Act. The last session, which was there on a pre-recovery procedure, that is very, very material. And more than that is, of course, a post-recovery procedure. Because when the recovery has been effected, the case is to be brought before the court. And then actually the procedure which is there, which is to be done by the courts, is there, which is to be done.
Sorry, sir. I think voice is echoing. So if again you could use that earphones, probably will have better results because voice is quite echoing and not audible.
Okay, I will try. Just I will.
Yes, please.
I thought it will be working good without these headphones.
Actually, when we tested, it was working fine, but I think now voice is coming.
Is it correct now? Without echo? Or
but echoing, still echoing. But you can continue. Yes, please.
With headphones?
Bit better.
Bit better. Okay.
But still it is echoing.
Okay. So this procedure, which is there, starts when the accused is arrested, case property is there, recovery has been effected. Then the person who has been so arrested on warrants or without warrants is to be produced before the station house officer. Then he is to produce him before the court. When the person is produced before the court, say under section 52 and 52A along with the case property, the first thing is that how the accused is to be dealt with, and then how the property is to be dealt with. These are the two major questions in the post-recovery procedure. So far as the accused is concerned, though it should be for the property first, but I will be, because it is a short thing or a short matter, I will be discussing that how the accused is to be dealt. Under section 36A, the jurisdiction has been vested in the special court so far as the recovery of commercial and non-commercial quantity is there. However, with regard to the small quantity, the jurisdiction lies with the magistrate. But subsection 167 of CRPC, which speaks of that the custody of the accused can be extended either in the police or in the judicial, depending upon the facts of the case and the request made by the police. And then in that case, the first remand is to be given by the magisterial court. This is the requirement as in section 36AB. It is just the same that under section 1672 or 2A, the power with the magistrate or executive magistrate is there, which is in CRPC, same has been detailed out in this section, that he may remand the custody of the accused up to 15 days in any case, and 7 days where he is a executive magistrate. Now, this is very material that why this is so, why this is mentioned that it will be only for the first 15 days when the trial is not there with him, because he is not the magistrate having jurisdiction in the case. The similar thing which is there in 167 of the CR. Then after remanding, he can send it if he is satisfied that either he cannot remand him further, that is 15 days have left, or he thinks that further remand beyond 2 days, 3 days, which has been given is not practicable or should not be given, then he can refer him to the special court having the jurisdiction in that case. Now comes a very important part, that if on the very first day he feels that this is not a case of police custody, then at the most what he should do, he should say that I feel that there is no remand of custody which can be given to the police. The case is not warranting that. So I order that he be produced on the next day before the special court having the jurisdiction. And thereafter he will be produced before the special court. Otherwise also, if he is, say, giving the remand, say, custody police for 1 day or 2 days, then he should also make a clear order that further he be produced before the special court having the jurisdiction. And when the person is forwarded by the judicial magistrate to the special court, then the special court can exercise the powers as the court is having the jurisdiction, and that as a magistrate under section 167, the orders can be passed time and again, remanding the custody either to the police for first 15 days or to the judicial, as depending upon the case, up to 90 days. Here, very important provision is there that under subsection 4, where the offences with regard to section 19, section 24 and 27A, these 90 days will be read as 180 days. So in all other cases, it is 90 days period entitling or non-entitling the accused for default bail. But in case of section 19, section 24 and 27A, the wording of 90 days in the section 167 of CRPC will be construed as 180 days. But here another rider is there that in case the investigation could not be completed in these 80 days, then, 180 days, then it can be extended up to 1 year. But for that, a request, of course, will have to be made by the prosecution before the expiry of the initial period. Now, since instead of 90 days, it is to be construed at 180 days. Then, say before the expiry of 180 days in these three cases, or commercial quantities of any case, 19, 24, I again repeat, 19, 24, 27A, or the offences relating to the commercial quantity, the period will be 180 days, but the application is to be made before the expiry of the initial period of 180 days, say even on 179th day, but not on 180th day, when the right in the accused has vested for the default. This is the ratio of the case of Nirala Yadav. In 2014, Supreme Court has come in Nirala Yadav saying that the application must be made before the expiry of the initial period. Then, yes, of course, if there is an application, then that can be considered. Otherwise, once the right has accrued for non-filing of the challan in 180 days, the accused will be entitled to default bail, despite the fact that the period could have been extended under Section 36A(4) up to 1 year. So this is the procedure with which the accused is to be dealt with. Now comes the disposal of the narcotic drugs or the case property. Earlier to 2014, the words which were there in Section 52A were narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances. But a very major change has been effected in 2014, when along with these two, controlled substances and conveyances have been added. Now even conveyances are there. Earlier to this, yes, if the opium has been recovered from a truck was not to be disposed of. It was not to be included in the part of inventory. But after 2014, even all the conveyances which are there recovered, carrying the narcotic drug, psychotropic substance or controlled substance in which it was being taken to, those are also the part of the case property and liable to be confiscation and disposal also. Now this places a rider and a question mark, a very big question mark, that whether the conveyance can be given on Spurgari. Earlier to it, yes, of course, it could have been given. But now when it has become a part of inventory, then conveyance cannot be released, because it is to be disposed of or confiscated. See, now, the heading of this section is disposal of seized narcotic drugs and psychotropic substance. But in fact, it speaks of something else also. If we read this section, only section, I am not, still I am not touching the procedure which is to be followed now in view of the Authority of Union of India versus Mohanlal 2016. But I am just going with the provision. What is there in the provision that where these things have been recovered, then they have to be forwarded first, as I told you, to the officer in charge of the police station, that is SHO. And then he is to prepare an inventory. He is to prepare an inventory. Now here, as per my experience or what I have seen, that generally the magistrates, even the CJMs are preparing the inventory if they are the person or the magistrate before whom on the first day the accused along with case property. They are preparing the inventory. No, they are not preparing. It is the duty of the IO or SHO to prepare the inventory. Why? Because it is to mark the property with the identification. That these are the marks of identification which were there on the property which was recovered, conveyance which was recovered, yes, the make, the registration number, the ownership, if there is. So all these things are marks of identification. So is the how the mode of packing is there, what are the marks, what are the other identifying particulars, say packaging, say if there is a packet of opium on which there is a packet of Israel or other country, Afghanistan, then that is to be written in that inventory. Weight, seals, how many seals have been used. So all these are to be written along with the other identification marks from which the property can be identified. And then what is to be done as per the section subsection 2 of 52A? An application is to be made to the magistrate for certain specific purposes which have been mentioned in the subsection 2. Those are three functions. First, in order to certify the correctness of the law says that yes, whatever the inventory will be prepared by SHO, the court will tally the property, particularly with respect to the seals on it, other mark of identification, then impressions on the seal, then on the form number 29 or the sample seal, the certified of there will be, certification will be given with regard to the inventory, which has been so prepared by the investigating officer, so-called, or SHO, if he is different than I. Then, second, in the presence of the magistrate, taking of the photographs of the drugs, conveyances, other substances, and certifying those photographs as true. And the third, allowing to dry a representative sample of such a drug or substance, whichever is used, in order to keep it as a representative sample. Now this application has been moved, all these three things have been done. Then it was obligatory on the magistrate that he shall, as soon as may be, allow that application. What is required from the court? Only it be disposed of according to rules. It be disposed of according to rules. This should be the wording which should be used by the magistrate, or this or any other wording which may convey this thing only. It is not destruction, it is disposal according to rules. And then now question may arise as to, if the disposal is there, why then this was required, or all the three things which have been done is required? Then subsection 4 is very material, and that is why it is very important part, limb of this act, that this should be meticulously done. Because if the property is subsequently destroyed or disposed of, because the application, basically the application which has been moved for these three purposes is for the disposal, then in that case, the inventory, the photograph, and the list of sample, representative samples so drawn will be primary evidence of the proof that this recovery was effective from the. So that is why I am saying, repeat at the cost of repetition, that it should be meticulously done. Now a question sometimes is posed that it is or. In all the three, the wording is or. Then whether it is obligatory to do all the three things, or if one is done, it will be sufficient. All the three are to be done. Because though here it is or, but it is to be read as and, because subsection 4 says that all the three will serve as a primary evidence. Shall treat the inventory, the photograph of the narcotic, drug, psychotropic substance, controlled substances or conveyances, and the list of samples are. So here it comes that all the three are done. So this is very important. Now, how the sampling was done? So there is a difference of procedure which was there earlier to 2016, and after that there is a different procedure. Before that, there was first this standing order 1/89 of Narcotic Control Bureau, which was saying that the sampling should be done at the spot of the recovery. From all the seized substances, sampling should be done at the spot of recovery, and it should be in duplicate in the presence of the witness. However, the quantity of dry for sampling was different, but it should not be less than 5 grams, which was stated in that, but may, in certain cases, may qualify, the qualified quantity will be 24 grams or 25. So this has been detailed out in the list of the substances by the chemical laboratories, that what is the requirement in order to test the content. Sometimes it is from 1 gram, sometimes it is from 2 grams, but sometimes it is minimum is required is 24. So this was done, and the sampling was to be done in duplicate. This is very important. In duplicate. Whereas in excise, in other things, the sampling was only one. But since in the act, it was not saying that 2 samples are to be drawn, so the notification made it mandatory that 2 samples should be drawn. And then application should be made along with that for disposal, which will be disposed of by the court. But in 2015, January, a new set of instructions was issued with regard to the how the inventory, how the sample are to be drawn. I will tell you just background of it. What happened in between? There was a new set of instructions that was in 2007 on 10th May, which stands superseded by the notification of 16 January 2015. So no need to discuss the instructions of 2007. So we are just coming straight to 2015 instructions or the notification. This was in view of the, I will say, the authority of Thana Singh versus Central Bureau of Narcotics, which was there in 2013 by the Honorable Supreme Court. In this case, the F part of that judgment, F para, speaks of retesting. whether retesting can be allowed in the cases of narcotic drugs or psychotropic substance under this act. Because act does not prescribe any provision like Food Act, other acts, Drugs Act, that a sample can be requested to be sent for retesting. So this authority laid down the guideline with regard to the retesting that it can be in rare of the rare cases, not in every case. First, retesting cannot be allowed in every case. The court can allow in rare of rare cases, and that too by writing down the special reasons for allowing it. And now, when it is to be done, they said if the application is made within a specified period of 15 days, 10 days after the receipt of the chemical report. So that is why this instruction was issued. And in this case, the basic purpose which was there, that the section was divided into two parts. First, that inventory is to be certified only on the first day. Sampling is not to be done. Photographs are not to be taken. And the inventory, other inventory is not to be prepared, that is represented taking of sample and other. You know why it was so? Because that was, it was stated in the directions that it will be the second part, that is Annexure F, which is there in the notification, will come to court after 1 month of the receipt of the chemical. Meaning thereby that disposal should not have been ordered by the courts unless report comes and 1 month has expired, that because that if accused wants to avail his right of retesting due to certain reasons, then he can avail. With this, the notification was there. But then in 2016, the authority of Union of India versus Mohanlal and others came. In which what has been said by the Supreme Court that these two things, that is order of 2015, 16 January 2015, and the provisions of section 52A, which speaks of immediately the IO will come to the court with the inventory and will request to the court for these three things, and court may pass an order as soon as it may be for the disposal of it. So when they said they are placed in juxtaposition of each other, then it is creating a confusion. I will read the wording which is there. There is no gainsaid that is such a conflict have to be resolved in favor of the statute on the first principles of interpretation. But the continuance of the statutory notification in its present form is bound to create confusion in the mind of authorities concerned instead of helping them in discharge of their duties. So even Supreme Court has held this, that it is creating a confusion, then to resolve it. And now, after saying, they have ordered that the central government should come with a clear-cut notification with regard to this. But simultaneously, it has been said that the officer concerned, that is SHO is bound to approach the magistrate for purposes of mentioned which are there in the section. But one thing has been said further, that in order to make it uniform throughout the country, because what was reported in this case was that in some of the states, the samples are being taken at the spot. In some, it is not taken at all. It is brought before the magistrate. And some were saying that they do it in the police station. They are taking the sample to the police station. So, in order to make it a uniform policy, this court, this Sumit court in this case held that no sample shall be drawn till the date a new set of instructions is issued by the government. Whole of the case property will be taken before the magistrate after sealing it and preparing only the first part of it, only of the articles recovered. Now, this case that if, say, 2 bundles of opium weighing 1 kilo each have been recovered from the accused from his bag, then bag along with the 2 samples will be separately sealed after weighing and mentioning that weight in the inventory and mentioning the seal and preparing a sample seal check of that. What seals have been applied to, number of seals, it will be brought before the SHO. And then SHO, by affixing his seal, because it is to be double sealed, then also affixing that impression of the seal on the sample seal check, which may be on the paper or the cloth, white cloth or the white paper, that will be submitted to the court, to the magistrate along with that accused on that first day. And then the process of the drying of samples is to be in the presence of the magistrate, under his supervision, and entire exercise, whichever is done, is to be certified by the magistrate as correct. So it is that after the recovery, it will be sealed and a magistrate will be approached under section 52A for all the things which are there in subsection 3. That is taking of the sample, then part of photographs, and then the third, inventory certification. Now, simultaneously, this authority has also discussed the disposal. I will be taking that after discussing this part, that how the procedure or what the procedure is, which is to be followed by the magistrate. Please, officers, I will request you to sensitize your magistrates, to sensitize the officers who are to deal with this on the first day of production, to follow it meticulously. Because if a minor lapse is there, it may result into acquittal because it is going to affect the link evidence. It is going to affect the report. Now, what is the purpose? That yes, whatever report comes that pertains to this drug or this recovery. So how that is to be proceeded with, that is very important. Now, when the inventory has been produced, which has been prepared by the investigating officer or the SHO, along with an application that the case property may be disposed of, it will be disposal is the order kar do. Then it is to be written how many bulks were there, and with whether there was any bag from which they were recovered, what were the impressions or the packaging, what were the labels on the packaging, what was the weight, and how those packets were sealed, with which seal at the spot and with which seal by the SHO. Now, it is very pertinent to mention here that when this is done, the every thing which is there should be verified by the magistrate. He should compare the seals, he should compare the weight, he should compare the packaging, everything he should compare. The sealing, most important. And then he should certify that inventory. So, when this part has been performed, this is to be mentioned that yes, order is to be divided in certain parts. That this thing, these articles says so many bulbs sealed with such and such alleged to be opium have been produced along with the inventory. I have compared it and have certified them. And after satisfying myself that the inventory and the case property tallies in each respect, I hereby order that samples be opened. Then that case property bulks should be opened in the court. And after this, ordering the opening by breaking open the seals, the court is to order that 2 samples each from each packet should be taken out. 2 packets each from each packet. Now see, just we will be dealing with that case in which 2 packets of 1 kilogram opium were recovered. Now 4 samples will be taken out. 2 from parcel A and 2 for parcel B. And here the parcels will be marked as parcel A and parcel B. And the samples which are taken, sample A1 and sample A2 and sample B1 and sample B2. Thereafter, one step I have forgotten. Yes, before that he should also confirm the weight. He should also order the weighing of the packets before taking out the samples, that yes, they are 1 kg each. In some cases, it has been observed, when say they are green plants, they are bound to lose the moisture even in 24 hours if it is summer, though it may not be that much lost because of winter, in winter, but in summer sometimes it say there can be loss of weight up to 50 grams or 100 grams per kg. Moisture is dried out. So you have not to worry, but to write down that this much is the weight of green plants, and the difference might be due to loss of moisture. And then with that weight, you should order the taking of the sample. Then after the samples are taken, the seal of the court should be given to be affixed on those parcels and samples. It is important. Sometimes seal of the magistrate is not there in the court. Sometimes he is just a person who has joined shortly. Then he can order that the seal of the IO or the other person, two seals be affixed, and both the seals should be got deposited in the court. And after the sample has been sent for chemical examination, the seals can be taken back. But anyhow, this should be done with the court of the seal of the court. It is desirable. Then after this, the sample chit, sample seal chit should also be got. That is just, I will explain what sample seal is, taking a white cloth or white piece of paper and fixing the impression of that seal which has been fixed on the parcels by stamp pad. With the stamp pad, the seal impression can be taken on white paper or white cloth, and that is to accompany the sample. This is very important. That is to accompany the sample to the chemical lab. Then after doing this, once this is done, that sample seal check has been prepared, case property has been sealed, IO or the SHO, whosoever come to the court, will ask to prepare the inventory again. Even here, the court is not to prepare the inventory. It is to be got prepared from the investigating officer or the SHO. Why? Because court is not to be a party to the case. It is only the certification of the entry which is there in the section. And as such, only the certification is to be there of the inventory. All the sealing, all the writing work should be weighing, should be got under the supervision of the court, and all this should be reflected in the second limb of law. That after this, it was ordered, this was done. And I have certified the inventory, I have certified the photographs, or photographer has been ordered to submit the photographs at the earliest so that they can be certified. I have ordered that one sample taken out from each parcel, say there are 33 bags, then there will be 66 samples, 2 from each, marked so. P1/1, P1/2, then P2/2, P2/1. So any number can be given to the bags, and the samples will be relating to that number by 1 and 2. Sample 1 of each parcel shall be ordered to be retained in the judicial malkhana as representative sample, which is requirement of section 52A. That will be taken as representative sample, and it is not to be given back to the investigating officer or the SHO or the police. It is to be got deposited in the judicial malkhana. And with regard to the bulk and the case property, second sample of each bag, each packet, it should be handed over to the SHO or the police personnel, sample for deposit in the chemical examiner office, and the bulk to be retained in the malkhana. Then this After this exercise, the order will be passed that the sample be deposited with the chemical examiner at the earliest, and the sample seal sheet is also to be given, and it is also to be sent to the chemical. I had come with facts of one case that an application was moved subsequently after this for the destruction of the case law before the magistrate. Now the question arises whether a magistrate, after he has done this exercise and has ordered the disposal of the case property as per rules on the application which is moved under section 52A, can an application for destruction of the case property be presented before the court of magistrate, and magistrate can order? No. This is also dealt with this in this authority. In this authority, with regard to the disposal of the case property, they have come up with 3 portions. One, which is pre-1989. The second, earlier to this authority. And the second, which are pending and are still, the cases are going on either in appeal or in second appeal. In those cases. But in first 2 cases, it is which have been finalized. So they have said that, what they have said that in case the disposal is there, then only the DDCs, that is Departmental Disposal Committees, are the concerned authorities which can destroy, which can order the disposal. None else, a magistrate cannot. Yes, if any special judge or a person is a member of DDC, then even individually he doesn't have the capacity to order this disposal, then it is to be placed before the DDC. They will order. And this has been said, they will be acting as per the directions issued in this order. So whenever a question arises that whether the disposal of the drugs or the conveyances or anything can be done under relevant sections or under the Act, then this authority is to be looked into till certain rules set up. This is very important. I recollected that Director Narcotics Bureau, I think some of you might have heard the name, Mohan Sanchi, is in jail for embezzling the drugs which were there in stores for disposal, crores of rupees. And a recent example, just 2 days ago, I was reading that in Delhi, 60 kilograms of charas was recovered, and the case has been made of only 90 grams, sorry, 90. Because it is very lucrative that even if small amount is sold in the market, it fetches a lot of money. And this is the basic of the authority which has been given with regard to that total volume of the drug is found, which we have discussed in Hiralal case. in the first session. Then after this, inventory, preparation of inventory and other things, the important part which is to be considered, that whether the complainant can be investigating officer, whether the investigating officer who has caught hold of the accused, recovered the quantity or recovered the contraband, or has seized something, will be assumed with the character of complainant if he sends the Ruka to the police station and he cannot further investigate the case. In view of the Mohanlal versus State of Punjab, which was there. So they said that no, a complainant cannot be investigating officer because fair investigation, it is the very foundation of the trial, and necessarily it is postulated that informant cannot be investigator because otherwise he will be interested in the success of the case because he is a complainant and he will be interested in the success. But subsequently, in Virender Kumar case, the matter again came up before the Honorable Supreme Court, which is a 2019 1 RCR Criminal 1003. In that case, again, the authority which was there, the view which was there expressed in Mohanlal's case was looked into. And adopting a more broader view, they said that yes, we have laid down the law that investigating officer is to be different from the complainant. But this law should not be used as a springboard. The word used was springboard for the acquittals. Because, there were thousands of acquittals in the country in a short span of 1 month. Every person, whosoever was there, said that my case is covered. IO is the same person who was complaining. Acquittal was there. They said that this will be applicable only to the cases which are after that date on which the judgment was passed, and not will be applicable to the cases which are there. Meaning it will be having only perspective on the date of the judgment, not retrospective. But now, in case Mukesh Singh versus state, the matter was again referred by 3 judges bench to the Supreme Court that it should be placed before a constitutional bench or a higher bench. Because this is not plausible. Otherwise, even in the case of excise recovery, the person who has nabbed the accused, recovered the properties, IO, but he is a complainant in the terms of Mohanlal's case. The all excise cases should also go. Even in hurt cases, if a person records the statement of someone in the police station and sends a Ruka, then also he is a complainant because FIR is being registered on his complaint, which he has sent. It means he cannot take the investigation part. It was referred to the Constitutional Bench. And what Constitutional Bench has said, that NDPS Act does not specify bar, that informant or complainant cannot be the same person. Further, merely because that informant is the investigator, this test in itself does not entitle the acquittal for the accused, unless it is shown that there was an unfair investigation. So they said the matter has to be decided from case to case. And they overruled this authority. Specifically, Mohanlal versus State of Punjab has been overruled specifically. In this case, that is Mukesh Singh versus State Narcotic Bureau, Delhi. And it is in 2020, August. It is still online. It is SCC online, page 700. You can read this authority. Then, after this, the magistrate is out of picture, and then comes the special court for all the purposes. Even the inventory which has been certified by the magistrate will have to be looked into by the special. On any further, he becomes functus officio, he cannot change. Sometimes application is made in the courts of the magistrate that this thing has inadvertently been left. No, the magistrate cannot change that inventory. Then it will have to go to the special, who is seized of the matter for taking the trial of that when the case is put on. So this is, in short, all with regard to the post-recovery procedure, with regard to the material and the conveyances. And section 60, which is very important, speaks of confiscation. That is, since it is also a post-recovery procedure, I would like to discuss this. Though it is after the trial, it is section 60. Liability of illicit drugs, substances, plants, articles, and conveyances for confiscation. Now, whenever any offense punishable under this section is committed, narcotic drugs, psychotropic substances, controlled substances, opium, poppy, cocoa, all their substances shall be liable for confiscation. And then other things that which is their conveyances. That is subsection 3. Any animal conveyance used in carrying any narcotic drug or psychotropic substance or controlled substance, or any article liable to be confiscation under section 1 or 2 shall be liable for confiscation unless the owner of the animal or conveyance. Now this is a liberty to the person who is owner. Here he can. Unless the owner of the animal conveyance proves that it was so used without the knowledge or connivance of the owner himself, his agent, if any, and the person in charge of the animal or conveyance, and that each of them had taken all reasonable precautions. Now see, there is section 25. There is also the word knowledge. Here, the word again is also that unless he proves that it was without his knowledge. And knowledge has been referred also in section 35 in mens rea, that wherever in the act the culpable mental state is in question, it will be presumed that there was a requisite culpable intention. And in the explanation, the knowledge word is there. So here also he will have to prove specifically by cogent evidence that yes, it was without his knowledge. Only then it cannot be confused. Otherwise, it is to be. So this is all, sir, which is their important part. Otherwise, small things are there, that how the report is to be made, how the seizure is to be effected. That is for the police, not for the court name. So this is all. I think.
So thank you very much.
Welcome, sir.
Since we are doing this series of programs, so it is bit by bit that we are moving ahead, and definitely we'll have further sessions also on this.
As you feel like, sir, as you feel.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So many of our participants have asked for repeating the citations which you have given in this today's deliberation. If you could kindly repeat the citations so that all the participants can note these citations, which are very, very valuable.
Definitely. The first which I referred to was Union of India versus Moon, which is the most important one, in which they have said a new thing and how the procedure is to be established. This is, I think, containing about 18 or 19 paras only, this judgment. And the most relevant for the taking of and preparing of the inventory and preparing of the sample, that is from para 11 to para 14, from 11 to 14.
If you could repeat it again so that I can write it in the chat box and it is available to all the participants.
Yes, it is Union of India versus Mohanlal and others.
Union of
India versus Mohanlal and others. (2016).
Sir.
Volume 3, SCC, page 379.
Right, sir.
So most probably these are paras 11 to 14.
Okay.
And for drugs disposal, that is para in the sum up, last para, I think it is 18 or 19. That is the para. I should read this authority before sitting in the court in NDPS Act.
Right.
I think so. Because, instructions are all the things which the police is doing. It is not no more there in view of this authority. The second authority which I mentioned was on the issue of whether the complainant can be IU. So the first authority in which it was laid down by 3 judges bench was Mohanlal versus State of Punjab.
Sir.
AIR 2018, Supreme Court, page 3853.
3853. Okay, sir.
Then this was, again interpreted in Varinder Kumar versus State of Himachal Pradesh.
State of Himachal Pradesh.
जी 2019 Volume 1 RCR Criminal page 1003 1003
1003. Right. Virender Kumar versus State of Himachal Pradesh.
Himachal Pradesh.
2019 Volume 1 RCR Criminal 1003.
3. Then the third one in which they have overruled that authority, that is Mukesh Singh versus State narcotic branch of Delhi.
Narcotic
Branch of Delhi.
Sir, narcotic branch of
Delhi.
Okay. Okay.
It is too. I am not able to lay my hand on the authority and the.
It's very recent judgment, right?
It is in August. It is in August.
Okay,
So it
I
is
will write that it is of 220.
I'm giving you SC online. Online citation is there.
Okay. Okay.
SC is 2020 SCC online page 700.
Page 700.
जी.
Right, sir.
These are the 30.
Okay. Right. Now, can I ask a few questions which have been posed by our participants?
Definitely, sir. Whatever I am knowing, I will be replying.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. The first question received from one of our magistrates is, if the offense is bailable and the person is produced for remand, so what should the magistrate do?
So here it is that whether the offences under the NDPS Act are bailable or not. Or it is a general question that if it is a bailable offence, is otherwise. There's a difference. Because to my mind, though it has been held by Delhi High Court, by Kerala High Court, by other courts also, not by Punjab High Court yet. I don't know about the J&K High Court. That whether the offences under this act are bailable or not. If we read the section 37 heading, it says offences to be cognizable and non-bail.
Right.
Right. And this thing has been added after the bill of 88 was passed by the legislation and it was amended in 89. Earlier to it, there was nothing like this, that offences are bailable or not. It was only cognizable. And offences which were beyond the having the sentence beyond 5 years, more than 5 years, they were taken in the bracket where it was required as in section B. Now, for those 3 offences and commercial quantities, which I have referred to in this case also, that is when remand is of 180 days. Now, it is very important to understand that whether the offences are bailable or not. See, I am having a different logic for this. I think the disturbance is there on your side also, or it's only on my end?
Uh, it's a bit of echo.
Echo,
Otherwise,
yes,
there
yes.
is no
Okay,
disturbance is not there.
okay. Now see, what has been said is that what is the relevancy of marginal note or heading of the section? In the interpretation of statutes, it is said differently by different authorities. I'm not ready with the authorities which are having two views differently. But there are two views. One, that marginal note cannot be taken to interpret the section. If there is some dispute or some thing is required to be got clarified with regard to the writing in the or the body of the section, then marginal note cannot be looked into for that clarification. Then rules of interpretation are to be applied, that is plain meaning, then other things, golden principle, all that has to be applied to the writing only. But if there is nothing written in this section with regard to the part which is there in the marginal note or heading, then that is to be taken as that yes, it means something. Now, this is there that offenses to be cognizable and non-legal. Then, in that case, there is nothing in this section that all the offenses are non-bailable. The restrictions which is taken as that here it is not written in part 2, that no person accused of any offense, all that which is written there, unless there are two conditions are or two findings are given by the court, that first there is not a I think reasonable ground for believing it, first that he has committed an offense, and then second that while on bail he will not commit it. These two findings are to be returned by the court, allowing the application provided the case was only under the sections 19, 24, 27A and the commercial quantity, which are there in the remand also, where it is again said, I will repeat, 180 days minimum and extended up to 1 year. So now this is the part which is in addition to the provisions which are there in chapter 33 with regard to the bail on, say, two parts. To invoke the R2 of Schedule 1 of CRPC, to held that any offense which is beyond 3 years, up to 3 years, are non-bailable. So that will not be applicable in this case, because if we read section 51, that says that provisions of CRPC with regard to arrest, warrants, then seizure are applicable so far as they are not inconsistent with it. So to my mind, to the learned magistrate, it is not bailable. There is no offense which is bailable. And so it has been held. I can give you an authority. Yes, I can give you an authority. It is State of Kerala versus Rajesh and others. State of Kerala versus Rajesh and others. It is of January 23rd, January, if I am not wrong, or 24th January.
It's state of Kerala versus Rajesh.
Rajesh. Of 2020. You can find it on SCC, but it is of, I think, January 24th. In which they have mentioned one judgment of old judgment 1999. That is a picture. Union of India versus Ram Saran or Sam Samuj, kuch like that. It is Union of India case. In that case, they have quoted the same para. They have said that to our mind, the offense is no offense is available in the NDPS Act. And I will give you a very interesting fact. I think you might have come across that fact. You know, when the case of Riya Chakravarti was being heard by Bombay High Court, have you it come to your notice, Gupta ji?
Yes. The point, one of the contentions raised is
Yes,
about
the
bailable nature of offense.
judge has specifically asked it.
Yes.
There they have referred this authority that as per Kerala versus Rajesh, that is why I recollected it, that there is nothing like bailable. No, but they have observed the judgment. It is just a passing remark which has been given. And this was said by the counsel of the accused that it is a. Then even in Baldev Singh case, which is a constitutional bench, they have written it in one para that the offences are non-bailable in 1999. But that has been, said that it is only a acquittal, not racial. So I think, so this is the law. But anyhow, if you take it as a bailable, your logic is that yes, it is bailable up to 3 years. Then after the taking of the photographs and other things, you can release him on bail. You can ask for the bail. But to my mind, sorry, sir.
No, actually, how the confusion is caused in this provision is because the heading of the provision is somewhat misleading. It says offenses to be cognizable and non-bailable. But in the body of this section, it only in 1A says that every offense punishable under this section is cognizable.
It doesn't say.
It doesn't say that every offense shall be non-bailable.
What is the purpose? What is the, why where the lacking is there? I will explain it. I had gone very deep into it. When it was old act, there was nothing. Every offense was punishable with 10 years imprisonment. Right. No offense could have been detailed as a bailable. When 85 in Act was passed, there was no provision. Only it was written all the offenses are cognizable. Only this was written, and वो second में भी यही लिखा, and then bail में भी यही कुछ नहीं लिखा. Right. Then came the amendment, in which 5 years punishment was made. That when there is a 5 year punishment, that will be subject to these two conditions. And when a bill of 1988 was produced, because this was amended in 1989. When that bill was produced, in that bill, the offense, it was said that when you will be reading this judgment of Union of India and the state of Kerala versus Rajesh, you will find that what they have written. They have said a very beautiful wording that a murderer commits the murder of one person. But in this case, or two persons, but when a person is dealing with narcotic act, dealing with narcotic drugs, then he commits the murder of several innocent young persons and the society. So, no bail should be granted even for, interim period. They have said this thing. This is the observation of this. So no doubt, what happened that the legislatures who were there after the amendment, they mentioned it in the heading, but forgot to and write it. These are the things which the legislation, a gray area is left, and that is to be interpreted in different ways. My logic is this, and I don't see that you should.
In fact, the logic which you are putting is fortified by what is sub rule 1, subsection 1, it says, notwithstanding anything contained in Code of Criminal Procedure.
Yes, yes, yes. So that is why I am
So
saying
heading
that.
coupled with this statement of the section may make it to be non-bailable.
So that is why there is one ruling. I am not ready with that, to be honest. That is that when the heading is only there, which is to be interpreted, it rules the section. It is of Justice Ayatullah. It rules the section. But yes, if it is to be taken as for clarification of the contents of the section, that can't be. That can't be.
Thank you. So I think this has given food for thought to everybody. They can make a research on it. We can't treat to be it as a closed chapter.
No,
so
no,
it's still open to interpretation.
I am saying myself that
right.
It rather I will be say benefited if somebody comes with a more logic that no, sir, from this it comes that it is available.
Sure, sir.
I will respect that logic. Definitely.
Great. Sir, the next question is again from one of our magistrates.
Sir.
He says that within the first remand period of 15 days, if the magistrate thinks that police remand is not necessary,
sir.
So is he to send the accused to the special court, or he is authorized to give judicial remand within that first period of 15 days?
I have very clearly has said it that no, he is. If he sees, if he notices that this remand cannot be given, and I have requested all the persons that the magistrates, whatever thinking of in the case, whether they want to give the police custody or they want to give the judicial custody. Yes, if they want to give the police custody for 2 days, 1 day, it's okay. They should write in the very first order that, yes, I have remanded the accused to the police custody for 1 day, and he be produced from the next day before the special court, having the jurisdiction in the matter. And so is, if the police remand is sought and he is not obliged to give it, he should give a judicial remand for 1 day, and after that, he should order that he be produced so that the time or period of first 15 days is not lapsed before it goes to the special court. The wording is very clear of 36A. I will just tell you that which is the wording. Just 1 minute, sir. This is, yes. Provided that, it is part B. Provided that in case which are triable by the special court, where such magistrate considers when such person is forwarded to him as aforesaid or upon at the time before the expiry of the period of detention authorized by him, that the detention of such person is unnecessary, he shall order such person to be forwarded to the special court having. So need not to be that he should definitely keep the case with him for 15 days. Rather, it is in the fitness of the interest of things that only one remand should be given. This is my request. And it is according to logic.
Just one clarification in it. The question is, the magistrate feels that remand should be given, but he feels that police remand should not be given. It should be judicial remand which should be given. So is he to do it himself, or he has to forward the accused to the special court?
On that, in that case, on that day, if the police is asking, now I have understood, the police is asking police remand, police custody. But he feels that remand is to be given because he is to be put behind the bars. The section does not require that he should be bailed out. He orders but he feels that a 15 days order should be passed as required. No. He should, because the second part, if he feels that that is not required, then he should give the 1-day judicial remand. I don't feel anything which entitles them that the police custody should be there with the police. I remand him to judicial lockup for 1 before the special court for the request to be made of police. Because in first 15 days, it can be vice versa for any number of times. If the chance comes to discuss this, this is very important aspect. That if the judicial remand has been given for 7 days, first 7 days, even then the police remand can. Even on the 13th day, the police remand can be given for 2 days, if there is a ground for that. But not after 15 days. So he should do like it.
Yes, yes. I think there is one catch in this whole situation. Even the executive magistrate can also give remand for 7 days.
7 days.
And a judicial magistrate is authorized to give remand for 15 days. So within their competence, they can exercise their remand power 7 days and 15 days respectively, as the case may be.
Yes. But see.
But beyond 15 days or 7 days, they have no jurisdiction to grant any remand, whether it is judicial remand or police remand.
But it is always desirable that tomorrow. Now see, there is a case. I will explain this because what is the wording written in it, or he feels that it is not to be given. अगर वो पुलिस रिमांड मांग रहे हैं, वो नहीं देना चाहता. He should not give the judicial custody for 14 days straight away. No. He should give and went to them, go to the higher court. To my mind, it is not there. Now tomorrow, if he does not give the remand and he gives 14 days remand, judicial custody, immediately they take the copy and file a revision of it. With the request that he was not competent, if he was not interested or not for the issue, he should give the police remand, he should have referred it to you because you are the final person. And some remarks are there by the higher court that in this case, the investigation could not be proceeded with because the remand of 14 days was given by the Ministry for Judicial and thereafter there was no ground for granting a police remand. So they should not become a party anyhow. What they have to do? They should immediately send the case for the next date. Yes, when it is a minor recovery, then they are competent. They may do anything because they are magistrate who can try the case. The same analogy which is there in 167.
Right. There is one question from Mr. Shivrit. He says, please repeat the point you have made on reduced weight of the green plants. He says that there was some technical glitch, couldn't hear it properly.
Okay,
so,
okay. No issue. See, when some plants, poppy plants are cut, fresh poppy plants, there is a case of cultivation of poppy. And they say that the 20 plants weighing so much, weight is to be done of the parcel. That is done. Or say charas is there, or hump is there. The leaves of the hump are there. Stem is there. That is weight. It is a recovery, not a cultivation. Plants of hump are there. That green plant is bound to lose the moisture. It is our daily experience that even if we buy a green vegetable, leafy vegetable, and place it in the sun, and after say just 2 hours, it will droop. The leaves will droop, and they will definitely be bit dry. They will not remain as fresh as they are on the plant. So in between the time which has lapsed, that is with the sealing and then production of that on the next day, because it is to be produced within 24 hours. If it is produced on the next day, then in that case, of course, it is bound to lose some water content which is there in that. And that water content definitely carries weight. Now, if in the court, when the weighment is done, the weight is less than what is so-called the weight which was done at the first time by the IO at the time of recovery, that may vary. I am not saying that it will vary in every case, every circumstance. In winter, it will not. In peak summer, it may. Say in Srinagar, it may not. In Jammu, it may. So that should not have any consideration that the IO has not weighed it correctly. And even otherwise, it has been held that the scales are not the same. Sometimes in margin of some grams can come with regard to weight of kilo. So that is not to be. Say if there is 100 grams difference in leafy sea recovery, then it can be mentioned that the weight is such, bracket may you can write down, which may be probably due to loss of moisture. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Sir, this question is from our senior prosecutor, Mr. Harmohinder Singh. He asks, is it necessary to fill up CFSL forms at the time of seizure and send them along with sample for chemical examination? This, I think, is in the context of these proformas which have been provided by the Narcotics Control Bureau.
Yes.
So would it suffice to fill up the forms, or separate recovery memos are also to be prepared?
Mr. Harendra Singh and others officers also. This is a very important question, but it is see more having more relevancy with the link evidence. That is, I have not touched it in detail. But anyhow, now I am telling it. I will also be dealing it when we will be taking link evidence. This is Form M29. That is report which is there. It is called Form M29, and it was to be filled at the spot earlier. After taking the samples, it was to be filled at the spot, and sample seal impression was also to be fixed on. Because this is the form which goes to CFSL, because it is also known as CFSL form. And the report of the Central Forensic Laboratory or these laboratories is to be on the back of it. Every report will be on the back of Form M29. And the first line will be that I tallied the sample seal on this form with the seal on the seal impression of the case property, and they were tallying, which shows that it has not been, or it is the same which was here. Now things have changed with the authority of Union of India versus Mohanlal. When you will be reading it, no sample is to be taken. They have said bring that property as it is just after sealing it to the court, and the court will monitor the taking of the sampling or the process of sampling. So to my mind, and as per the law also, it is now to be filled in the court. When the samples are taken out, then the form is to be prepared, sample seal, because now if you have prepared that form there at the spot, that seal has been broken. They just try to notice it, that if that form is prepared, I will ask the answer from Harendra Singh himself, that when, say, it is prepared at the spot, now that seal impression is fixed, which has been there, and sample has been prepared, that preparation is there at the spot. Now when it is brought to the court, that seals are broken. A new seal is affixed. How that form will be going to that person, that is chemical laboratory, that this is the seal fixed, So it is to be prepared at the spot, not spot, but in the court. Can you ask him that whether it is correct or not?
Actually, this second part of this question is, would then Caesar memo be separately prepared or only this form would suffice?
No, this form is not to be prepared, the memo in the court. See, there are two things. Since
Okay.
it is not to be prepared at the court, at the spot, memo will be prepared at the spot. Recovery memo will be prepared at the spot. But then second recovery memo is not to be prepared. The order of the court will be amply clear that in the court, that is why I have said that in the first order, it will be ordered in the last that seals be broke open and sampling be done, signature. And then the second part will be that this has been done. That will go to prove that whatever inventory was there first prepared, that has been certified. Then the second inventory which has been prepared, that is with regard to all the sampling, that will serve the purpose of memo also. So no second memo is prepared in the court.
Sir, the question, I'll read the question again. Probably I have not been able to put it correctly. The question is whether a separate Caesar memo is to be prepared substance or only inventory will suffice.
Recovery memo is to be prepared. Inventory itself will not be sufficient. Because
Right.
inventory is for the purpose of court only. Recovery memo is of the case showing that this property has been recovered from the accused. उसमें तो लिखा जाएगा ना कि this thing has been recovered on search, this thing has been recovered from the bag which he was carrying on his shoulder or otherwise has been from the car. And that will be attested by the testing witnesses. That memo is, of course, is to be prepared. Only inventory is not to be prepared. But sampling will not be there in that memo. It will be only with regard to that 3 bags or 3 parcels from a bag has been recovered and which on weighment have come to 1 kilogram of opium each. They were put into sealed parcels and in that bag they have been placed and that has also been sealed and the memo has been prepared while which it has been taken into. So this memo which is prepared is for taking into possession of the articles. इन्वेंट्री इज जैसे हम इन्वेंट्री किसी अलमारी में सामान निकाल के बनाते हैं कि ये कुछ निकला है उससे, बट मीमो विल बी सेपरेट फ्रॉम इन्वेंट्री. इवन हम अगर किसी केस में सर्च करें तो हम अगर रिकॉर्ड बनाते हैं कि ये अलमारी तोड़ी गई और इसमें से ये सामान निकला, तो दैट विल बी इन्वेंट्री. इन्वेंट्री विल बी बीइंग प्रिपेयर्ड साइमल्टेनियसली, बट अल्टीमेटली that as per the inventory, all the articles have been taken into possession of the police-wide recovery memo, this, which will be signed by the witnesses and the IOMs. I think whether he is satisfied with the answer or not, because people come satisfied.
Sir, one of our prosecutor, Mr. Mohsin Khan, he is on the question of small quantity offences are to be tried summarily by the magistrate. So, has it any significance vis-a-vis the question of bail?
No, it has no have any significance.
Okay.
Both
So then it
sections
asks
are
you,
different. Both sections are different.
okay. What is the purpose of making these offences summarily triable?
Because for small quantity, the person is in jail. Now I will say this thing. Person is not on bail because it is not bailable offense under section 37. Then he should be tried summarily and or released or whatever conviction, whatever is there. It should be passed in few days. This is the purpose. This proves my saying that they are not bailable.
Okay. So this is question from Mr. Manav Bhartiya. He says these are, I think, 2 questions. what is the significance and importance of the prevention of illicit traffic in Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act 1988 vis-a-vis the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act of 1985? Do they operate implemented and enforced concurrently, and also how they are different from each other?
See, this requires a detailed explanation. But in short, I will say they can do something, not better. So they are two separate, but it requires a very detailed explanation.
I think this also gives us some fodder to have it in another session.
We can.
Yes,
Not
we can.
complete session, but definitely it will take half of it.
Right, sir. Right, sir. So
but
we'll
I think it is not that because it is not that important, I will say, because every action is being taken under this chapter, this 85 Act. Yes, one thing can be done. One thing can be done when we will be dealing with Drugs and Cosmetics Act and the simultaneously, then we will make a reference.
Sure, sir.
I think that will be.
Right. Now the second question from the same.
Please, one thing I will request. Please, sir, send me this question in verbatim so that I can focus that. It may not be sidetracked.
Right. I'll send you this question. Now the second question from the same participant is, what is the difference between Narcotic Control Bureau and Central Bureau of Narcotics, especially with regard to the respective structure, functions, and organization?
I think he should better read it from the both, because this is see, there are two different agencies, I will say. There are two different agencies. Now tomorrow, if it is asked that, what are the fields of the central excise and the state excise, or the central excise and narcotic bureau, because central excise is also an authority which can go for. So these are their powers, which can be rather best read from the powers which are there, because I think I have not felt the necessity till date. Because if they are empowered, they are the person, the officers who can apprehend a person. If he is an empowered officer, last time I think it was asked that, who is an empowered officer? Whosoever of the officer of the departments mentioned in section 41, 43, and have been empowered so by the notification of the central government or the state government, they are empowered.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I think we are done with these questions. And if still the participants feel that they have some question which is of very valuable in nature, or which is very important, the participants can send these questions to me, and I'll then forward these questions to Mr. Mehta. So then these questions can be answered generally also, and specifically to the participants also. So
I think it will be better if the answers are given to the participants specifically.
Right, sir.
Instead of giving it in a particular session, because sometimes some questions are there with regard to the problems which is being faced by them in the court. A particular fact. Now, if it is of very relevance, then we will be discussing it in the session, or we will be taking it. We will discuss it. I will discuss it with you, because the questions will be sent to you, and whenever you will be passing it on to me, I will be discussing it.
Actually, sometimes what happens is that questions do appear in the chat box or Q&A box, but the essence of question is lost in moderation. So better
That
is
is there.
always
That will,
to communicate directly and get the answer also directly. So we can
yes,
do
it
that,
can be
that the participants may send their questions
either on email,
and
my
then
mail, or on my
I'll
telephone.
forward these
You
questions
can
to
give,
you.
you can, yes, yes, you can.
I think a question has just appeared. I'll just see what is the question. Okay. The question is from Mr. Saeed Afaq. He's a senior prosecutor. He says if the explanation is not made by the IO for non-citing of civilian as witnesses, what will be the fate of case?
See, on this, I will say that one thing is there, that there are several authorities, because he is a senior officer, he must be knowing that police officers are not to be disbelieved simply because they are police officers. There are several authorities, right from the beginning of 79, 80, lot of authorities. And now the only question is that whether at the time the independent witnesses were available, whether at the time of recovery there was somebody passing by, or if it is some recovery is being made from some inhabited area, whether a person was called and he was ready to join. So this will depend upon several things. But see, on the whole, I say that it will not make any. Not only the police officers, but only one line that nobody was available or nobody was prepared to. So when the cross examination is being done in the court, then whether he took action against them, whether notice under 160 was given to him, several questions are there, but all waste of time of the court. Because again, same thing, recovery only due to this reason that only the police officer with the witnesses is not going to be rejected solely on this ground. I would say solely on this ground. That no independent witness. Join. I think be very specific. I am a person who is witnessing a recovery. I will not be a witness. I will be lacking my responsibility as a public person. No, I will not. मैं उसको कहूँगा छोड़िया तो अपना कर या और I will turn my face कि मैंने तो देखा नहीं मैं कैसे करूँ. It is a human tendency. So, but it is not going to make any difference. There are several cases. Several, I think 99% cases are there in which conviction has been recorded up to Supreme Court, in which there was no witness, independent.
So the gist of matter is that non-citing of civilians as witness would not itself be fatal for the case of prosecution.
Yes, yes.
It may cast some doubt.
Doubts. It may cast some doubts, which can be added by other mistakes or other things which have been committed by the or other lapses in the case.
Yes, sir, yes,
but in itself, it is not going to matter if the other cases.
If this is the only doubt and there is no other doubt, then the
then it is not to be
or case being defeated is out
only
of
on this ground. Only on this ground.
Right. So thank you very much.
Welcome, sir. Welcome.
This was, in a real sense, a good discussion. So we are moving ahead bit by bit. So we'll try to have another session shortly. Yes, of course, depending upon your schedule at your convenience. Yes. So if the schedule is bit early, we can catch up very easily. So sometimes
Yes, that is right. Right. That is right.
sessions
Because
are
now
planned late.
I was
We can
feeling
miss
it.
out.
Now I think we should stick to link evidence,
Right,
because
sir.
that is the case, see, evidence which is the most important, and even a truckload of opium can be acquitted if there is a slightest defect in it.
Right, sir. Right, sir.
Slightest defect. So we will be discussing it.
Yes, sir. Yes, I'll coordinate with you, and
Yes, sir.
I'll try to have another session shortly. So all the participants to watch out for this. So very
Yes.
soon we'll
Thank you
be
very
having
much.
another session, and depending upon what we can cover, we can plan further
We
sessions
will plan.
also.
We will plan. We will plan.
Right, sir. Right, sir.
And
So
I am
thank
also
you.
very thankful to the participants who had heard me so patiently and have asked so many questions. I'm very
Yes, sir.
thankful.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mehta sir.
Welcome.
And thank you all the participants for joining us and keeping patience and asking pertinent questions. Some of the questions which you would forward to me, I'll in turn forward it in a shape of document to Mr. Mehta, and these can be replied to you privately also, and to generally to all the participants, so that all the participants can be benefited by it. So with this, we come to close of this session. So thank you all. Thank you very much.
Right, sir. Thank you.